Yeah, it's 6 months late, but I don't want to rush this out and pull a Game of Thrones. My first opinion when I was writing this was it was such a disappointing year with so many failures like Fallout and Sea of Thieves, along with a dozen others. It had a massive lack of games to play with your friend. That's also in 2019 going to seem like the same issue. AAA on the whole was bland, with only PlayStation saving the year for me personally. But the one thing that never fails to impress me and get me excited are indie games. Let's start with what they are best at, making nostalgic games. First, you have Shovel Boy with his pogo stick that digs. As someone that sucks at platforming, struck the right balance of being just right with also having the fun boss fights, despite its simple gameplay. Then you have Spectre Tony Hawk Terminator campaign that has totally rad movement, brah. The agility of this alone was like a whole new game. You can wall run, dash attack, anything similar to another game later, and grind on the ground because why not? You have more useful spells, and despite fighting half of the bosses from the main game, the new movesets are enough to make it fresh. It also wins the Best Movement award. Then you get a reboot of Ninja Gaiden, a retarded game from before I was born. The Messenger does something unique, using nostalgia for its gameplay and doing it well. You get time travel from 8 to 16-bit to go all Metroidvania. You have humor from one character that's perfect for anyone that knows the tropes of how video games work. I also never played the games it's inspired by, as they're clunky and should be put to rest. Sorry, Grandpa. It's so unique and fresh that I even bought the soundtrack because chiptunes. So the Messenger wins Best Humor and Soundtrack. Then Crosscode says, hold my beer, I'll make a solo MMORPG with interesting characters, puzzles, combat, and be a lot longer than you expected. That's what she said. You get a Matrix-style story where you're playing a person playing an MMO, which I've never played, by the way, unless you count Toontown. You have dungeon raids that are half puzzles, half combat trials, where the puzzles are some of the hardest you'll ever see, so bring your brain with you on this one. You have some relatable characters, some cliche. The story does take a while to kick into something interesting, but so few games can get so much right. It's easy to call this one an instant classic and really the only MMO I've ever played. It wins Jack of all trades and Game of the Year. As a huge fan of Fallout, despite Fallout 4 being a huge disappointment, I was willing to give this game a try to experience the universe with my friends. Sadly, Fallout 76 was so devoid of any content, I never care to play it and get depressed whenever someone brings up Bethesda and how they murdered Fallout. In order to replace my main multiplayer game, it has to be unique and like no other game I've played up to this point. Siege was that winner for 2.5 years. So if Fortnite comes along and makes me play and enjoy a Battle Royale game, which I still hate, but it has so much more going on. It has weekly updates with new items, weapons, challenges, and a cosmetic system that no other game to date can compare to, that keeps it fresh and makes me want to come back daily. Along with modes and events that they offer, like playing as Thanos, having a concert, and dozens of other unique modes that make this game an easy win in my eyes. The skill gap that is allowed in today's watered-down garbage is also great. It allows me to make so much content, and would love for you to use creator code Neckbeard to help me out. And it wins Best Multiplayer. This was the year I grew to love and understand roguelikes. The first one I ever played was FTL, and at the time I didn't know that it existed and it belonged in the genre. So adding a few more this year was a pleasant surprise. Firstly, there is the game that is named after what happens when smoking too much pot. Dead Cells is the only side-scrolling one I've played and has great such power progression with such fun combo effects, and despite having simple combat, it's so visceral, and the amount of different weapons and gadgets to build up to, it was hard to not want to do one more run. It also wins Most Epic Looking Combat. Then you have Prey Mooncrash. All those haters that say this ruins the experience of Prey are wrong. Yeah, it's not the same exact game, but why would you want that? It's a unique and different way to play Prey. You have the core gameplay that you love with time pressure to escape all 5 unique classes of characters that each have interweaving stories that are fun to unlock. The game isn't that hard, and the time isn't an issue once you have a game plan to escape and learn the route, stocking up your guys with supplies, and using each character to help other characters escape, which can't be used once you escape with that thing. To sum up, just buy all the Prey stuff. Seriously, this game is a masterpiece. It wins Best Roguelike and the only AAA game in 2018 that I liked. From the creators of my very first roguelike come back at it again with another, it is best described as a chess-style roguelike, which probably does a terrible job at selling how awesome it is. Into the Breach gives you 3 robot cops that each have unique abilities and interactions within the team and against enemies. It could range from the basic pulling, pushing, and ramming to more advanced like placement and attack manipulation, elemental effects, and spawn blocking. With each of the 8 different squads that all play completely differently, make it a blast to learn the methods on how to win with them. The only one I couldn't win was the ones that you have to damage yourself and the enemies and heal off kills. My brain can't handle that. The game is a masterpiece, and simplicity doesn't mean dumb or easy. The game is hard despite the simple rule sets, and it's sad that most don't think this is on the same level as FTL and is seen as the lesser game. It wins my most innovative game and personal game of the year. Now, my annual early access review. Surprise, a lot of good games actually left it. RimWorld, Dead Cells, Subnautica, and Crosscode, all great games that I've played, but I'll focus on the only one that is still in it and doing it right. Not like Ark Pirate Edition. Deep Throat Galactic has you play literal neckbeards, digging in mines and killing monsters from all around you that is so satisfying. It's another Killing Floor-esque grind of repeating the same content to level up, get perks and all that kind of stuff, but it never feels like it's a grind. It's amazing when you have a fresh new idea and solid gameplay. It's a blast to play with your friends. It wins Best Co-op Game, and one of the only ones of 2018.
Oh yeah, I got an M1 Grand.
Dude, let me reload. Shoot them reload.
All right, you want me to waste the 10th?
Oh my god! Oh my god! What the fuck?
I was just eating fucking pretzels so I couldn't move in time.
With the original introducing me to turn-based strategy games, the sequel makes it look like a fan-made game. The level of improvement from cutting dumb plane combat to adding more complexity to both the overworld gameplay and the normal combat, more useful and varied perks. With War of the Chosen basically making an XCOM 3 with all the features it brings along too, get both to get the full experience of XCOM 2. It wins Most Improved Sequel. White Knight has enough content for people of all skills and gives you a lot of options on how to build your knight to beat the game. This game has a lot of memorable bosses, characters, and a world that feels alive. You add some really cool orchestral music with some great combat and movement in a Metroidvania game? You got an easy winner in my book. Hollow Knight wins Best Metroidvania. Full Metal Furies, a unique game where you play as women fighting the patriarchy. Okay, that might be fake. But it has a simple combat system, but really shines with the enemy and boss designs that are not so easy to beat, along with some of the most insane and out-of-the-world puzzles I've ever seen. Thanks, Grant, for saying, let's try out these puzzles. How hard could they be? It wins the award for most bizarre puzzles. Iconoclast has you play as a woman with a wrench that must fix the world. Of course, a woman has to fix the world, right? This game has a lot of reading and can get all Jordan B. Peterson on you with a philosophical story. If you really want a world to lose yourself in, this one might do that. It also has some of the most creative bosses I've seen in a while. It wins the award for most creative and best story. This year I got a PS4 because Sony was like, hey, we got good games over here, while Microsoft was adding all theirs to a total, not a garbage bin Game Pass. More like games I'll pass, am I right? This will be fast as everyone knows these. Uncharted 4 and God of War was proving that all AAA games get worse with each new iteration. The Order 1886 was way better than I expected. People trashed that game when it came out. The story and world were interesting. It's hella short and was half cutscenes, but for $4 wasn't bad. Would love to see more. Bloodborne was more Dark Souls, so of course it was great. PlayStation wins the only console to have because Microsoft has ruined every franchise and isn't making anything good either award. Frostpunk is a game with a mix of city building and surviving the cold, with laws and choices that have to be made that are not always black and white to help you survive, with 4 campaigns that all have something completely different to offer, with a great range of scenarios that will test how much of an asshole you are to complete the mission. Frostpunk wins Best Simulation Award. Overcooked 2, a game for real men that looks like it's a game to play with your mom because it's cooking themed, but isn't because this game is harder than it looks. The game has each level offer some twist that feels like a puzzle game that will make you come up with a game plan to beat it. So few games require working together to win. It's one of 2 games that are the true definitions of cooperation, and yet none of my friends want to play this game. Thankfully, Hannah's good enough to play this with, and she 3-starred every level with me. Correction, we didn't actually get all 3 stars, and Grant finally did cave and bought it in 2019, and we did beat the game in a quarter of the time it took me and my sister. And we actually did 3-star every level on our first try, except for one level. Screw the hot chocolate level. Seriously. I hate you. It wins Best True Co-op Game.
That was nuts! Hell yeah.
Now for a retroactive game of the year, Darkwood, an underappreciated survival horror game, but this one is actually good. You have combat that you have to plan your actions carefully. Swinging an axe takes wind up and release. The combat is tense in this game. Enemies that are actual threats. Crafting items that are all useful. At night you defend your home and your sanity. A creepy atmosphere and story with art that feels weird looking at. It's probably the most overlooked game on the list. It wins Best Survival Horror, Game of the Year 2017, and Best Souls-like game because it wouldn't be a list without mentioning that game. I hope you found at least one game that piqued your interest, or you're awesome like me and you already have them all. Now here are some insane stats if you're interested in how much I spend and how many games I've played, and I'll compare them to other years. I bought 42 games costing $560. I played a total of around 1,100 hours. Only 4 turned out to be games I didn't enjoy, and 2 not being played at all. My best year so far. To put some perspective on that, my first full year after getting my PC in 2014, I bought 122 games for $440, totaling 2,000 hours. My highest amount and decreasing every year as life gets in the way. Also, it had 38 games that I didn't like, 31 games I still haven't played to this day. As time gets more valuable, the cost of games isn't that big of a deal for me. From an average of $3 a game in 2014 to $13 an average in 2018. I've gotten really good at knowing when I'll like a game, and the excuse for not affording games has never been an issue since like 2015. So I'm hoping nobody gets this far to find out I've been lying when I use that excuse. Now my outlook into 2019, because what I say is law. I think this will be a good year for AAA single-player games like Metro, Shadows Die Twice, Doom 2, Resident Evil 2, and the game that will make 2019 alone worth it, The Outer Worlds. I'm going to sadly say that co-op games might be few again. I only know of Astroneer, and I hope that Anthem will be good, because we really do need it to be, but it's EA, so cross your fingers. Otherwise, I'll have nothing to play with my friends, and they'll never see me. If you made it this far, why? That breakdown of 2014 and 2018 was weird and probably makes no sense. I do have a huge database of my favorite hobby and wanted some excuse to showcase it. I don't know if I'll do that again. Each year is a new format, and I try to make these more entertaining while also giving information. I don't know why people would even watch these all the way through. I will say it's way less cringe than my first couple, so improvement? Anyways, thanks for listening to me ramble, and hope to see you next year with a completely different video.